The stars shined bright outside the massive windows of Diplomatic Station Meridian 7. General Maya Chen stood in the Great Hall, watching ships from 100 different worlds arrive. Today was supposed to be a simple day. Just sign some papers, shake some hands, and go home. The peace treaty between humans and the Galactic Empire had lasted for 900 years. 900 years of no war, no fighting, no death. Maya wore her dress uniform, dark blue with silver stars on her shoulders. She had earned every single one of those stars. 50 years of service. 50 years of keeping the peace. She was the most respected general in human space. Everyone knew her name. Everyone trusted her, but something felt wrong today. The Empire representatives looked nervous. They whispered to each other in corners. Their new emperor, Jathik Namin, had taken power just 6 months ago. His father had been a good leader, a peaceful leader. But the son was young. Some said he was foolish. Some said he wanted to prove himself strong. Maya walked through the crowd. Diplomats from Earth greeted her with smiles. Alien ambassadors bowed their heads in respect. The ceremony would begin soon. In 1 hour, they would all sign the treaty renewal. Another 100 years of peace, secured with ink and promises. The Great Hall filled with thousands of people. Cameras floated in the air, recording everything. This moment would be broadcast across the entire galaxy. Maya took her place on the stage. The Empire's representatives stood on the other side. Between them sat the treaty, a thick document written in 20 different languages. The ceremony master began to speak. His voice echoed through the hall. He talked about peace, about friendship, about the bright future ahead. Maya smiled politely. She had heard these same words many times before. She reached for the pen that would sign humanity's name to another century of peace. Then she heard it. A sharp crack like breaking glass. Time seemed to slow down. She felt something hot punch through her chest. No pain at first, just surprise. She looked down and saw red spreading across her uniform. Blood. Her blood. The hall exploded into chaos. People screamed. Security forces rushed forward. Maya fell to her knees. She tried to breathe, but her lungs would not work properly. Someone caught her before she hit the ground. She could hear voices shouting, but they sounded far away. Through her fading vision, she saw him. High up in the viewing gallery, an Empire sniper was being tackled by guards. The weapon fell from his hands. This was not an accident. This was not a mistake. Someone had ordered this. Someone in the Empire wanted her dead. Maya knew she was dying. She could feel her life slipping away. But she had one more duty to perform. With her last strength, she activated her communication device. Her voice, weak but clear, broadcast to every human world. "Remember what we are capable of." Those were her final words. General Maya Chen died in front of thousands of witnesses. The cameras captured everything. Within minutes, every human in the galaxy knew what had happened. Their greatest general, their protector, murdered during a peace ceremony. The Empire representatives rushed forward, their faces pale with shock. They claimed it was a rogue agent. They said they had no idea this would happen. They begged for forgiveness. But their words meant nothing. The damage was done. Within 1 hour, every human military base went silent. No statements. No threats. Just silence. The kind of silence that made smart people very afraid. Earth's unified command locked down all communications. They gave no orders, issued no warnings. They simply stopped talking. The Empire tried to reach them. They sent messages, apologies, offers of compensation. Every message went unanswered. For 72 hours, humanity said nothing. And in that silence, the Empire began to remember. Old historians pulled ancient files from deep archives. They searched for records of the First War, the war from 900 years ago. Most of the Empire had forgotten those days. The young ones thought humans had surrendered. They thought the peace treaty was a gift from the Empire to a defeated enemy. But the historians found the truth. They found reports that had been hidden away, marked with warnings. Do not forget. Do not provoke. Do not break the treaty. They found references to something called the burning of Theta Sector. An entire region of space, dead and empty. 40 billion Empire citizens gone, all because of humans. The historians brought these files to the young emperor. They made him read every page. They made him understand what his empire had done 900 years ago. And more importantly, they made him understand what humanity had done in response. Emperor Jathik IX sat in his throne room, reading about horrors his ancestors had tried to forget. His hands shook as he turned the pages. The Empire had not won the First War. They had barely survived it. And the treaty was not a peace agreement. It was a promise. A promise that if both sides stopped fighting, both sides might live. Deep in Earth's military headquarters, something was happening. Sealed vaults that had not opened in 9 centuries began to unlock. Ancient systems powered up. Weapons that had been sleeping for longer than most people had been alive started to wake. Each vault had the same label, written in simple words that anyone could understand. For use only if treaty violated. The words glowed red in the darkness. And inside those vaults, things that should never be used again waited patiently for their orders. Around the galaxy, on every human world, people watched and waited. They did not panic. They did not cry. They simply prepared. Parents sent their children to safe locations. Factories switched from making civilian goods to making other things. Ships in orbit changed their positions. Everything moved with quiet efficiency. The Empire's intelligence services noticed these movements. They sent reports to their leaders. Human activity increasing, human fleets repositioning, human communication networks going dark. And then one analyst added a note that made everyone stop breathing. They are getting ready for war. But it was not just any war. The analyst had done his research. He had read the old files. He knew what humans were capable of. At the bottom of his report, he wrote one sentence in capital letters. We should have left them alone. The 72 hours of silence ended at exactly midnight Earth Standard Time. Every human communication channel activated at once. Every screen across the galaxy showed the same image, the flag of Earth's unified command, and beneath it a simple message that made the Empire understand just how badly they had failed. The peace treaty, held for 900 years, is now ended. You have 30 days. The Empire's greatest historian was an old scholar named Vexnor. He had lived for 300 years, studying the past so others might understand the present. When the young emperor called for him, Vexnor knew why. He had been waiting for this day, hoping it would never come, but now it was here. Vexnor arrived at the imperial palace carrying a heavy case. Inside were documents that most people had never seen. Records from 900 years ago. Records of the First War with humanity. The war that everyone wanted to forget. Emperor Jathic IX sat on his throne trying to look confident. But Vexnor could see the fear in his eyes. The young emperor had finally realized what he had done, what his empire had done. He had broken the one rule that should never be broken. Never make humanity angry. Tell me everything, the emperor said. His voice shook slightly. Tell me about the First War. Vexnor opened his case and pulled out the first document. It was a battle report from 900 years ago. The paper was old, yellow with age, but the words were still clear. He began to read. 900 years ago, the Galactic Empire was at the height of its power. They ruled over thousands of worlds. Their military had never lost a war. They were proud, strong, and certain of their place in the universe. When they discovered humanity, they saw only primitives, weak creatures living on one small blue planet. The Empire expected them to surrender immediately, but humans did not surrender. When the Empire's fleets arrived in Earth's solar system, humans fought back. Not with honor, not with traditional tactics, but with pure savage creativity. They fought in ways the Empire had never seen before, ways that made no sense, ways that worked. The war lasted 3 years. 3 years of the most brutal fighting the galaxy had ever witnessed. The Empire won most of the battles. Their technology was better. Their ships were stronger. But winning battles did not matter. Humans refused to accept defeat. Humans used biological weapons that evolved as they spread. The Empire would create a cure and the weapon would change. It learned from every attempt to stop it. It adapted faster than Empire scientists could work. Millions died from diseases that should not exist. Humans sent swarms of small attack drones, each one controlled by artificial intelligence. These drones learned from every battle. They studied Empire tactics and found weaknesses. They shared information with each other. Every time the Empire destroyed one swarm, the next swarm was smarter, more dangerous, more efficient at killing. But the worst part was the Scorched Stars protocol. When humans could not hold a system, they destroyed it, completely. They would poison planets, collapse stars, create radiation fields that would last for thousands of years. If the Empire wanted that territory, they could have it. But it would be worthless, uninhabitable. Dead, the Empire kept pushing forward. They thought humans would eventually break. They thought fear would make them surrender. They were wrong. Humans did not fear death. They feared losing more, so they made the Empire fear them instead. Vexnor pulled out another document. This one made the Emperor's face go pale. It was a report about the Theta Sector incident, the moment when everything changed. 3 years into the war, the Empire's 7th Fleet cornered a human refugee flotilla in Theta Sector. Thousands of human ships filled with civilians running from the war. Women, children, elderly, all trying to escape. The Empire Admiral sent a message. Surrender now or we will destroy you all. The humans did not surrender. Instead, they activated weapons that the Empire did not know existed. Experimental devices that tore apart the fabric of space itself. The entire Theta Sector became a dead zone, not just empty but fundamentally broken. Even energy could not exist properly there anymore. The 7th Fleet died instantly. All of them. Thousands of ships, millions of soldiers gone in seconds. But that was just the beginning. The dead zone started to spread. Slowly but steadily. It consumed everything it touched. Planets, stars, space stations. All became part of the emptiness. Over the next 10 years, 40 billion Empire citizens died. Not from war, but from the spreading contamination. The Empire tried everything to stop it. Nothing worked. The humans had created something that could not be fixed. A wound in reality itself. And the worst part, Vexnor said quietly, was that the humans did not want to do it. They begged the Empire to let them go. They warned what would happen. But the Empire Admiral thought they were bluffing. He thought no species would sacrifice their own people like that. He was wrong. The Emperor stared at the document, unable to speak. Vexnor pulled out one final paper. It was a journal entry from the Empire Admiral who had negotiated the peace treaty. The Emperor read it slowly. We did not grant them peace. We begged them to stop. Sign the treaty or sign the death warrant for civilized space. The humans have shown us horrors we never imagined possible. They do not fight with honor. They fight with the cold efficiency of those who have accepted their own extinction. They will drag us into the darkness with them if we do not stop. We must stop. Please let us stop. The Emperor closed his eyes. His hands trembled. How did we forget this? He asked. Because you wanted to, Vexnor replied. Because it was easier to believe you won than to remember you barely survived. The treaty was not a peace agreement. It was a mutual cessation of extinction-level hostilities. Both sides agreed to stop before there was nothing left to rule. For 900 years, humans kept the treaty. They rebuilt their worlds. They traded with the Empire. They sent diplomats and signed agreements. And everyone thought they had become peaceful, civilized, safe. But they never forgot. They just chose not to remember out loud. They kept their weapons. They maintained their protocols. They trained their soldiers. And they waited, hoping they would never need any of it again. Now you have reminded them, Vexnor said. You have killed their greatest peacemaker. General Maya Chen spent her entire life convincing humans that peace was possible, that the Empire could be trusted, that the old ways were gone forever. And you murdered her in front of the entire galaxy. The Emperor stood up from his throne. His legs felt weak. What do we do? He asked. Pray they show mercy, Vexnor said, because 900 years ago they showed none, and this time, you gave them every reason to finish what they started. Across the Empire, other historians were reaching the same conclusions. They sent urgent reports to their governments. They begged their leaders to understand the danger. Some listened. Most did not. They thought humans were bluffing. They thought the old stories were exaggerated. But the smart ones knew better. They looked at the silence from human space and understood what it meant. Humans were not angry. Anger was loud, chaotic, emotional. This was different. This was cold calculation. This was humans deciding exactly how much damage they needed to do. And that was far more terrifying than any angry threat. In the Imperial military headquarters, generals gathered to plan their defense. But how do you defend against an enemy that fights without rules? An enemy that creates weapons which break reality itself? An enemy that will sacrifice everything, including themselves, to win? One old general stood up. He had fought in border skirmishes with humans decades ago. Small conflicts that never escalated. He had seen how they operated. I served with a human officer once, he said. I asked him why they fought so strangely, why they did not follow proper military doctrine. The human officer smiled at me. A cold smile. He said, "We fight to win, not to look good, not to follow traditions, just to win, because if we lose, everything we love dies. So we will do whatever it takes, anything, everything. We will become monsters if we must, because monsters can protect their families when proper soldiers cannot." The room fell silent. Finally, someone asked the question they were all thinking. "Can we win?" The old general shook his head. "No one wins this war. We can only hope to survive it." The 72 hours of silence ended at exactly midnight. Every screen across human space showed the same symbol. A simple mathematical equation. To most species, it looked like random numbers. But to anyone who understood advanced mathematics, the message was clear. It was a countdown. 30 days until war. The Empire sent urgent messages. They apologized. They offered compensation. They promised to find and punish those responsible. But humanity did not respond. Not with words. They responded with action. Across every human world, massive structures began to move. What everyone thought were historical museums suddenly opened their hangar doors. Ships that had been on display for centuries powered up their engines. These were not museum pieces. They were weapons, kept in perfect working condition, waiting for the day they might be needed. The civilian merchant fleet, thousands of ships that carried trade goods between stars, began to change. Cargo containers fell away, revealing weapon systems. Engine covers opened to show military-grade thrusters. Simple trading vessels transformed into warships in minutes. The entire merchant fleet had always been a disguised navy. On Earth, in the underground chambers beneath the Unified Command headquarters, 3 people sat around a table. They were called the Triumvirate, the 3 leaders who made the big decisions during times of war. They had been elected years ago but had never needed to act. Until now. One of them was Commander Sarah Chen, General Maya Chen's daughter. She was younger than her mother had been, only 35 years old. But her eyes were hard, cold. She had watched her mother die on live broadcast. She had heard her mother's final words, and now she had a job to do. "We gave them 30 days, she said. Her voice was calm, too calm. "But we do not need to wait." The other 2 members of the Triumvirate nodded. They had already approved the first strike. Something to make the Empire understand what they were facing. Something that would show humanity's true capabilities. A single small ship left Earth's orbit. It was so small that most scanners would miss it. It moved through space using a method the Empire did not understand. It did not create the normal energy signatures that ships usually made. It was invisible, silent, like a ghost. The ship traveled deep into Empire territory, past their border defenses, past their security patrols, all the way to their core systems, where the most important worlds existed, where the Empire kept its government, its military command, its technology centers. The ship did not fire weapons. It did not drop bombs. Instead, it released something far more dangerous. A cloud of nanoscale machines too small to see. They spread through the Empire's communication networks. They infected computers, data systems, artificial intelligence cores, and they began to rewrite everything. The Empire's scientists noticed something wrong within hours. Their computers were not working correctly. Commands were being changed. Data was being altered. Security systems were locking people out of their own networks, and the infection was spreading faster than they could contain it. They called it a virus, but that was not quite right. It was more like a living thing. It learned from every attempt to stop it. It adapted to every defense they created. It was artificial intelligence, but not like any AI they had seen before. This one had a purpose. This one wanted to destroy, and it had a name. Every system it corrupted displayed the same message: Prometheus Unbound. And below that name, words that made the Empire's leaders feel true fear for the first time in centuries. Remember what we are capable of. General Maya Chen's final words, now written across 1,000 infected systems. A ghost haunting the Empire, reminding them of what they had done. Emperor Zhathik IX called an emergency meeting. His advisors gathered, all of them looking worried. The young emperor had learned much in the past few days. He understood now what his empire faced, but understanding and knowing how to fix it were different things. "How long until we regain control of our systems?" he asked. The head of technology shook his head. "We cannot regain control, Your Majesty. The virus is learning faster than we can work. Every solution we create, it finds a way around. Within a week, we will lose access to most of our networks. Communication, transportation, defense systems. Everything will fail. Can we shut down the networks completely? Start fresh? If we do that, millions will die. Our worlds depend on these systems for everything. Food distribution, medical care, life support on space stations. We would be killing our own people. The Emperor sat back in his chair. So we are trapped. We can either let the virus destroy our systems or we destroy them ourselves. Either way, the Empire falls apart. But the virus was not killing people. That was the strange part. It was destroying military systems, security networks, government computers, but it carefully avoided anything that would hurt civilians. Medical systems continued working. Food distribution stayed online. The virus was precise, controlled. It was not trying to cause chaos. It was making a point. One of the Emperor's advisors spoke up. It was Chief Advisor Krell, the man who had ordered General Chen's assassination. He had been quiet during the meeting, but now he stood. "Your Majesty," he said, "we should strike back, show humans we are not afraid, launch a full military assault." The Emperor looked at him with disgust. "You caused this. This was your plan. You wanted to test human weakness. You said killing one general would make them afraid of us." Krell's face went pale. He had not expected the Emperor to know. But someone had talked. Someone had revealed his secret order. "I was trying to protect the Empire," he said weakly. "You were trying to prove yourself powerful," the Emperor snapped. "And now we all pay the price. Guards, arrest him." But when the guards moved forward, Krell ran. He escaped through a side door. The Emperor shouted orders, but it was too late. Krell had planned his escape. He had a ship waiting. Within an hour, he had fled to the outer reaches of Empire space. Human intelligence networks tracked him. They knew exactly where he went. Commander Sarah Chen received the report and smiled. A cold, terrible smile. "Good," she said. "Let him run. We will catch him when we are ready, and then he will face justice." Meanwhile, human fleets began appearing throughout Empire space, not invading, not attacking, just establishing blockades. They surrounded important systems, cutting them off from the rest of the Empire. No ships could enter or leave. No communication could get through. Each system became an island, isolated and alone. The Empire's military tried to break these blockades. They sent warships to fight, but the human ships used weapons the Empire had never seen before. Energy shields that the Empire relied on simply stopped working. Their shots passed through human shields without effect. But human weapons struck with terrible accuracy. And high above some of the most important Empire worlds, human ships deployed new weapons. Kinetic bombardment platforms, simple metal rods dropped from orbit. No explosives, no energy weapons. Just heavy metal falling from space at incredible speed, each rod hit with the force of a nuclear weapon. And there was nothing the Empire could do to stop them. But again, humans were careful. They did not target cities. They did not kill civilians. The rods struck military bases, weapons factories, government buildings. The message was clear. We can destroy you completely, but we choose not to. Yet other species in the galaxy watched in horror. They had lived peacefully next to humans for centuries. They had traded with them, worked with them, never realizing what humans truly were. Now they understood. They had been living next to the most dangerous species in the galaxy. And that species had chosen to be peaceful. Until now, some species offered to mediate. They sent diplomats to both sides begging for peace talks. But humanity's response was simple. Deliver the murderers, pay reparations, accept responsibility. Only then will we talk. The Empire's citizens began to panic. They saw their military fail. They saw their technology corrupted. They saw human ships in their skies. And they remembered the old stories their grandparents had told. Stories about the First War. Stories they had thought were exaggerated. Now they knew those stories were true. Emperor Jathik Naim stood alone in his private chambers. He had sent away his advisors. He needed to think. His father had kept the peace for 80 years, never breaking the treaty, always respecting humanity, and in 6 months the sun had destroyed everything. He finally understood what the old admiral had written 900 years ago. The humans have shown us horrors we never imagined possible, and now those horrors had returned. But this time they came with a precision that was somehow more terrifying than chaos. The Emperor made his decision. He would find Krell, he would deliver him to the humans, and he would beg for mercy. because pride was not worth the destruction of everything his ancestors had built. 2 weeks had passed since the assassination. 2 weeks of systematic dismantling of the Empire's power. Prometheus Unbound continued spreading through their networks. Human blockades held firm around 47 systems, and the Empire's military discovered they could not win battles against human technology. On the Empire's core worlds, ordinary citizens lived in fear, not because humans were attacking them, but because they understood they could. Food shipments arrived late, because the logistics networks were corrupted. Power grids flickered as control systems failed. Nothing was working properly anymore, and the Empire government could not fix it. Emperor Jothic IX had mobilized every intelligence service to find Chief Advisor Krell, the man who had ordered the assassination, the man who had started this war. Finally, they got a location. Krell was hiding on a remote station in the Outer Territories, protected by mercenaries. The Emperor sent his best forces to capture Krell. But when they arrived, they found the station already secured. Human special forces had gotten there first. They had taken Krell without firing a single shot. The mercenaries had simply surrendered when they saw who was coming for them. Commander Sarah Chen received Krell on a human military ship. He was brought before her in chains. He looked smaller than she expected. This man had ordered her mother's death. This man had started a war, and now he stood before her, trembling with fear. She wanted to kill him. Every part of her screamed for vengeance. But her mother had taught her better than that. Justice, not revenge. That was what separated civilized beings from monsters. Commander Chen activated a communication channel to the Empire. She broadcast her message across the galaxy. "We have captured Chief Advisor Krell," she announced. "He will stand trial for the murder of General Maya Chen. The trial will be held in 3 days at a location we will announce shortly. All species are invited to witness justice." The location she chose made everyone go silent. The ruins of Theta Sector, the dead zone from 900 years ago, the place that still bore the scars of the First War. Commander Chen wanted everyone to remember what happened when the Empire pushed humanity too far. Human engineers built a special platform at the edge of Theta Sector. It floated in space, protected by shields that barely kept the dead zone's contamination away. Representatives from hundreds of species came to witness the trial. Even the Empire sent observers, though they did so reluctantly. The trial lasted 2 days. Evidence was presented. Witnesses testified. Krell tried to defend himself, claiming he acted in the Empire's best interest. But the proof was overwhelming. He had ordered the assassination. He had wanted to make humans afraid. Instead, he had awakened something terrible. The judges included humans, Empire citizens, and neutral species. They all agreed. Guilty of murder. Guilty of breaking the peace treaty. Guilty of crimes against civilization itself. The sentence was decided quickly. Life imprisonment in Theta Sector, working to clean up the contamination. "You created this wound in space," Commander Chen told him. "You will spend your life trying to heal it. If you succeed, perhaps in a few centuries, this place will be livable again. That is your punishment. To fix what your kind destroyed?" Krell was taken away, screaming. But no one felt pity for him. He had started a war that killed millions 900 years ago, and he had nearly started another one. He deserved his fate. After the trial, Commander Chen made another broadcast. This time she spoke directly to the Empire. "Your advisor has faced justice. Now we must discuss the future. Emperor Jothic IX, I invite you to meet with me. Let us talk about peace. Real peace. Not the fragile kind that breaks when one person makes a mistake." The young Emperor accepted immediately. He traveled to neutral space, to the same diplomatic station where General Chen had died. The blood had been cleaned from the floor. The broken glass had been replaced, but everyone could still feel what had happened there. Commander Chen met him in a simple room. No ceremony, no cameras. Just two people trying to prevent the complete destruction of galactic civilization. She looked at the Emperor. He was young, perhaps too young for the responsibility he carried, but his eyes showed that he had learned. "I am sorry," the Emperor said. Those were his first words. Not excuses, not explanations, just an apology. "I cannot bring your mother back. I cannot undo what my advisor did. But I am sorry." Commander Chen studied him for a long moment. Then she nodded. "Thank you. Now let us discuss how to ensure this never happens again." The negotiations took 3 weeks. Both sides had demands. Humanity wanted the Empire to pay reparations, not just for General Chen's death, but for all the damage caused by the war. The Empire agreed, though it would take 200 years to pay everything. Humanity demanded that both sides demilitarize their border zones. No weapons, no military bases, just peaceful space between them. The Empire agreed. They had learned that military strength meant nothing against human creativity. Most importantly, humanity demanded education. The Empire had forgotten the true history of the First War. That could never happen again. Every Empire school would teach about the Theta Sector incident. Every military academy would study human tactics. Everyone would remember why the peace treaty existed, and in exchange, humans would teach at Empire military academies. They would share their knowledge of asymmetric warfare, not the weapons themselves, but the thinking behind them. How to fight when you are weaker, how to survive against impossible odds. These lessons were valuable to any species that might face a stronger enemy. The new treaty was signed in the same hall where General Chen had died. This time, there were no snipers. This time, security was provided by both human and Empire forces working together. This time, everyone understood what they were protecting. Commander Chen signed her name next to her mother's memorial. The document was different from the old treaty. It was longer, more detailed, and it included consequences for violations. Real consequences. Not just words, but actions. After the signing, a memorial station was built at the spot where General Maya Chen had died. It would serve as neutral diplomatic ground forever, a place where all species could meet, a place that reminded everyone of the cost of war. The station's central hall contained a statue of General Chen. Her hand was extended, offering peace. But her eyes were watchful, alert. The statue reminded everyone of who she was. A warrior who chose peace. A soldier who knew the true cost of war. A woman who believed in something better. Beneath the statue, words were carved in stone. Here stands the last woman who believed peace was possible without fear. May we prove her right. May we never forget the cost of proving her wrong. Commander Sarah Chen stood before her mother's statue. She touched the cold stone hand. "I finished your work, Mother," she whispered. "The peace will hold. Not because they fear us, but because they finally understand us." Around the galaxy, humans began standing down their war machines. The merchant ships returned to their peaceful disguises. The ancient weapons went back into storage. Prometheus Unbound was recalled, leaving the Empire systems clean. The blockades lifted. Life slowly returned to normal. But nothing was truly the same. The Empire had learned what humanity was capable of. Other species had seen the truth. Humans were not the peaceful traitors everyone thought. They were warriors who chose peace, and that choice was what made them truly dangerous, because anyone can be peaceful when they are weak. But to have the power to destroy everything and choose not to use it, that required something special. That required wisdom. That required the kind of strength that could only come from knowing exactly what you were capable of. Emperor Jathic IX returned to his throne. He had aged years in just a few weeks. He gathered his council and told them something important. "We will never forget this lesson. We are strong, yes, but strength without wisdom is just violence. Humanity taught us that. We must remember." And so a new era began. Not the false peace of ignorance, but a real peace built on understanding and respect. The galaxy had learned an important lesson. Peace was not a gift given by the strong to the weak. Peace was a choice made by everyone every day to be better than their worst instincts. And humanity? They went back to their lives. They traded, they explored, they built, but they never forgot. Deep in their vaults, the weapons slept again, waiting, hoping they would never be needed. But ready, always ready. 50 years had passed since the day General Maya Chen was murdered. 50 years since the galaxy learned what humanity truly was. 50 years of a different kind of peace. The memorial station that bore her name had become the most important diplomatic location in the galaxy. Every major treaty was signed there. Every significant negotiation happened within its halls. The statue of General Chen watched over it all, her stone eyes forever vigilant. Young cadets from hundreds of species came to train there. Human instructors taught them things that made them uncomfortable. How to fight dirty, how to win when you should lose, how to make your enemy afraid without ever firing a shot. But most importantly, they taught them why you should only use these skills when you have no other choice. Commander Sarah Chen had retired from active service 10 years ago. She was now simply Sarah, a woman who lived on a quiet farming world, growing vegetables and watching sunsets. But people still came to visit her. Young officers seeking advice, diplomats asking for wisdom. She welcomed them all. One day, a young Empire officer came to see her. He was nervous, unsure if he would be welcome. Sarah recognized his uniform markings. He was from the Imperial Guard, the same unit that had failed to protect her mother. She invited him in anyway. The young officer sat across from her, hands clasped tightly. "I need to know something," he said. His voice was quiet. "Do you hate us? For what we did to your mother?" Sarah looked at him for a long moment. Then she poured tea for both of them. "I did hate you," she admitted. "For a long time. When I watched my mother die, I wanted to destroy everything you were, everything you had built. I had the power to do it. One word from me and human fleets would have burned your worlds to ash." The officer went pale. "But you did not." "No, because my mother taught me better. She taught me that revenge is easy. Any fool can destroy. But building something better? That takes real strength. So I chose to honor her memory by finishing what she started. Real peace. Not the kind built on ignorance, but the kind built on understanding." "Do you think it worked?" the officer asked. Sarah smiled. "You are here asking me these questions. 50 years ago, you would have been terrified to even approach a human. Now we sit together drinking tea, talking about the past. Yes, I think it worked. The galaxy had changed in those 50 years. The new treaty was stronger than the old one. Not just because of the words written in it, but because everyone understood what it meant. Peace was not a passive thing. It required work. It required everyone to make the right choice every single day. The Empire had transformed as well. Emperor Jothic IX was now an old man, beloved by his people. He had spent his entire reign working to repair the damage his early mistakes had caused. He established schools that taught the true history. He opened the old archives so everyone could learn from past failures. He made sure his people would never forget. Other species had learned from what happened. They looked at humanity and understood something important. Power without wisdom was dangerous, but power combined with restraint, that was something to respect. That was something to aspire to. A new term entered galactic vocabulary, Shen's peace. It meant peace maintained through transparent deterrence. Everyone knew what everyone else was capable of. There were no secrets, no hidden weapons, no surprises, just honest acknowledgement of capabilities and mutual agreements not to use them. Historians wrote books about those crucial weeks. They analyzed every decision, every action, every word spoken. They tried to understand how humanity had balanced on the knife's edge between justice and vengeance, how they had shown their power without drowning in it. One popular theory said that humanity's secret was their memory. They never forgot what war cost. Even after 900 years of peace, they remembered. They maintained their weapons. They kept their skills sharp. Not because they wanted to use them, but because they never wanted to be helpless again. Another theory said it was their culture. Humans valued individual life in a way many species did not. Every death mattered to them. So when they went to war, they did so efficiently. They did not waste lives on grand gestures or honorable defeats. They fought to win quickly, to end the war as fast as possible, to minimize suffering on all sides. But Sarah knew the real answer. It was simpler than anyone guessed. Humans were dangerous because they understood what it meant to be weak. Most species in the Empire had always been powerful. They had conquered others, built empires, ruled vast territories. They saw strength as natural, but humans had spent most of their history being weak. Fighting against nature, against each other, against overwhelming odds. They learned to survive through cleverness, adaptation, and sheer stubborn refusal to give up. And when they finally became powerful, they never forgot what it felt like to be helpless. That was their advantage. That was why they could show mercy even when angry, because they remembered what it was like to need mercy. They remembered what it was like to hope that a stronger enemy would choose restraint. On Earth, in the deep vaults beneath military headquarters, the ancient weapons still slept. Technicians maintained them with the same care as always. Every system checked, every weapon ready, not because anyone wanted to use them, but because being ready meant they might never need to. A new generation of soldiers trained in those weapons. They learned how to use them. They learned when to use them. But most importantly, they learned all the reasons why they should not. They studied history. They read accounts of the First War. They visited Theta Sector and saw what weapons could do to space itself, and they understood. These weapons were not tools of glory. They were tools of desperation. The last resort when everything else had failed. The choice you made when protecting your family meant becoming a monster. One young soldier asked her instructor a question. If we have these weapons, why do we try so hard for peace? The instructor was an old veteran who had served under General Chen. She smiled sadly. Because having power means nothing if you let it control you. We are not strong because we have weapons. We are strong because we choose not to use them unless we absolutely must. Any species can destroy. Only the wise can restrain themselves. The young soldier thought about this. So we are the monsters who chose not to be monsters. The instructor nodded. Exactly. We are the species that can be monsters but chooses not to. And that is what makes us human. Across the galaxy, a young girl asked her grandmother about the old days. The grandmother was very old now, one of the few still alive who remembered the assassination. She had watched it happen on broadcast. She had lived through the terrifying weeks that followed. Grandmother, the girl asked, are we the monsters in this story? The grandmother looked at her grandchild with gentle eyes. No, dear, we are not the monsters. We are the species that could be monsters if we wanted. We have the weapons. We have the knowledge. We have the capability. But we choose not to be. Is that what makes us good? The girl asked. The grandmother shook her head. No. Being good is easy when you have no other option. Being good when you could easily be evil. When you have the power to take what you want, hurt who you want, destroy what you want. That is when being good means something. That is when choosing peace takes real courage. The girl thought about this for a long time. Then she asked one more question. Do you think it will last? The peace? The grandmother smiled. As long as people remember. As long as we teach our children what we are capable of and why we must never use those capabilities lightly. As long as we honor people like General Chen, who believed in something better. Yes, I think it will last. At the memorial station, a ceremony was taking place. It was the 50th anniversary of the new treaty. Representatives from every major species gathered to recommit to peace. Emperor Zhathik IX was there, old and tired, but still proud. Sarah Chen attended as well, standing quietly in the back. The emperor gave a speech. He talked about mistakes and lessons. He talked about pride and humility. He talked about the woman whose death had nearly destroyed everything, and the daughter whose wisdom had saved it all. When he finished, everyone stood and applauded. But Sarah did not want applause. She walked to her mother's statue and placed her hand on the cold stone. We did it, Mother, she whispered. We proved you right. Peace is possible. Not easy, not simple, but possible. As she stood there, she thought about the vault doors back on Earth, the ones with the glowing red letters. Pray we never wake them again, but keep them ready always. That was humanity's promise to itself. Never forget what you can do. Never forget what it costs. And never ever use it unless you have absolutely no other choice. Protect the peace with the knowledge of war. Honor life by remembering death. Stay human by never forgetting the monsters you could become. The ceremony ended. People returned to their ships. Life continued. Trade routes operated. Diplomatic missions proceeded. Children played in parks across 1,000 worlds. And somewhere deep in the darkness of space, the ruins of Theta Sector remained. A reminder. A warning. A memorial to the cost of forgetting. The galaxy had learned its lesson. Power without wisdom leads to destruction. Peace without strength leads to vulnerability. But power combined with wisdom, strength combined with restraint, that was the path forward. That was what General Maya Chen had believed. That was what humanity had proven.